recording to the cloud.
Okay.
So hello and everybody, and welcome to our Projector Winter Fireside Gathering number 23. And it's my great pleasure today to be talking with Jen Zarda. Jen, how are you doing?
Good. How are you? I'm very tired. Didn't get much sleep, but
You're tired?
What's new?
Yeah, you're a mum. I got 0 hours sleep last night, and I actually am feeling great. So
Was it the moon? I feel like it was the moon or something. I could not, I was just, I don't know.
I don't know. I didn't check any cosmic entities, but I just didn't sleep last night. And
It's a full moon in Gemini.
Oh, well, there you go. Maybe that's why. For me, I've been in a very low end. I've been sleeping loads and having no energy. And then last night I didn't sleep at all. And then I did some breath work, and now I've got loads of energy. But anyway, it's not really about me, this call. So I'm very much looking forward to exploring your chart, Jen, and hearing some of your tales of adventure, of life so far as a projector. And we're going to have a look at Jen's chart. Jen is an emotional projector who has all three possible projector motors and the spleen defined, and who is also a 4-6 profile, born on the right angle cross of planning. So there are a few of the things that we're going to explore. First of all, Jen, how did you first come across human design? I believe you were into astrology beforehand. Was astrology your first love?
Oh, yes. I mean, it's been in my life, my whole life pretty much, but yeah. But yeah, no, I that's exactly how I got invited to human design. And after I had been in human design for, I don't know, a month or so, somebody told me that the person who introduces you is supposed to be some huge importance in your life. And so I kind of went back. We met through astrology and our Pluto placements, and we talked throughout the years, on Facebook Messenger. So I just went back from all the years. And the only conversation we ever had, she would always veer me back, she's a manifestor, to talking about me and my life's purpose and my North Node. And so basically in this conversation, I say to her the first time ever that I feel like there is no doubt in my mind that I'm on that I'm not on the right path. And she goes, well, I wasn't going to do this now, but I just felt that this was the time. And she sends me my information and tells me about human design. And I feel like that's what she was waiting for me to say, that I knew that I was already been on my path, that I just needed to realize that.
So is your friend who introduced your projector as well?
She's a manifestor. She's a emotional manifestor.
Got it. And so I presume that if you have someone's details for regular astrology, then it's the same details to look up your human design and vice versa. Is that correct?
Correct. And your entire personality side, your conscious side, is the exact, if you overlaid your astrology chart on top of your mandala, they would line up. All those black signs would all line up with your astrology chart.
Right.
So this astrology chart tells the story and the characters, really the story of your life and the things that happen. Yeah.
So if we take the black numbers, because I've seen the astrology charts, do they do it with degrees? Is it out of 360 degrees rather than...
Right, and each sign is 30 degrees. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But the houses can be different based off where you were born. Okay. So they can be smaller houses or bigger houses, but that's, yeah.
Yeah, that's a bit beyond me right now.
Yeah.
That's really cool to note. So there's a direct correlation, it makes sense, between the black, which is the personality, and the astrology. The black of the human design and the astrology. And of course, in human design, as you know, we've got the whole red aspect, which is
right,
for the quarter of a cycle beforehand, the quarter of a solar cycle beforehand, which is something that sets human design apart from the astrology.
And it's funny when I realized that that have that Sagittarius ascendant, Sagittariusness on my unconscious side. People in astrology always would mistake me for being Sagittarius when I have not a lot of Sagittarius in my astrology chart. It was interesting when I found that out. Mm-hmm.
Right. So how was that? So you've been working with astrology, and then a whole nother world opens up. Now, did you try and compare the two straight away, or did you say, right, this is a new system, I'm going to learn this new one first? How did you know?
I just felt like it was like, I don't know, like if you're in school and you pass your, I don't know, like you get your bachelor's degree and then you're ready to go move on to the next level, just the next layer, you know, because it's like, I feel like, you know, it's the I Ching, and then there's the astrology layer, and then there's like, you know, the scientific layers that, you know, that makes that human design. So I felt I've always looked at the mandala chart, and that has made it so much easier for me. And everything just connects. It makes sense. It all just, it's like, yeah, it just all makes sense.
It all makes sense. That's great. And
just like it was the next step. It was just the next step.
Yeah. Perfect. The next sort of step appearing.
Right.
At
the next
time. Yeah.
Layer of my study. So.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. And how long ago was it when you first, you know, two questions. First, when did you first find out I'm a projector? Was it a couple of years ago? And did you jump straight in to go, right, I'm going to try this, waiting for the invitation?
No, I didn't know anything about this till September 15th.
This year.
September 15th this year. I did not even know that this existed.
Okay.
Nope. But then at the same time, it made sense. I relate this to, you know, I have a nursing degree, and I was a CNA for many years before I went to nursing school. And that's how like I felt like nursing school was. It was like, oh, okay. It was like all the things that like I already knew, it was just connecting the dots. It's like, you know, that electromagnetic connection is basically what it just like, oh, like everything just is aha. Okay, that makes like everything just makes sense. I don't know how to explain it.
Oh, you don't have to explain. I'm the one with the cross of explanation. So you can just share your experience, right? But
I'm all about feeling. Everything I just feel.
Right. Well, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, if we look at your chart, we will see that you have very little definition. You've only got one activated gate above the throat, and you've actually only got 3 activated gates above your throat, above your G center. So you are all in the lower. Your definition is all in the lower centers. So you know, we can see there in your chart that's, you know, your 4 defined centers are down there, and, you know, from the G center upwards is all the white centers are undefined. So you know, it makes sense. And you know, in any case, the whole thing about, you know, logic is overrated. Like, logic's good, but, you know, I mean, I've got the cross of explanation, all that logic stuff going on, and it's great, but it's only one form of intelligence. And obviously in this body graph, we've got intelligence all over the body graph in different ways. So that makes so much sense what you're saying. What struck you first of all? What resonated? What was any of the becoming a projector a bitter pill to swallow? I mean, you would have found out you're here to wait for invitation as a first thing. How was that?
Oh, no, actually, that's the one thing about me that I mean, that's the very thing about me. And I'm still, I mean, my whole life has been, well, since I started talking again. I quit talking for a while when I was a little kid, but when I did start talking, I had a hard time figuring out when to shut up, or when, you know, I kind of related more to being a reflector. And it was because, you know, that whole center, it's like almost like I feel like everybody just kind of comes into me, and then they bring them back up like out of my mouth, you know. It's like, okay, get out of here. That's how I've always felt that. And I know that all that openness up there makes sense. Why? I mean, I know that when I've always recognized that if I'm not invited to talk, it's just, I'll just stop talking. because I know right away. I'll
So
sense
was that
it.
you
Like,
describing that feeling like you take other people in, like you're
yeah,
kind of,
yeah.
yeah.
Like I've always said, I had found a diary of mine when I was a little girl. I always wrote in my diary, like tips. I used to write my diary on like how to help my mother.
Okay.
Because I was always locked in my room all the time. But she was crazy. But I wrote in there, I drew an eyeball, which was weird. I don't remember writing this. I wrote something like, through your eyes, I see it all, or something like, gosh, I can't remember what I wrote. I meant to bring it, but it was something basically like, I can see all of you and you can see none of me because I am you and you are me, or something like that. And I wrote that when I was 9 years old, and I don't remember writing it. I don't even know, like, there's a lot of things I've written throughout the years that I have notebooks everywhere because things just kind of come out of me, and I don't know if it's really me writing or if it's something, you know, I feel like everything's just something else. It's never
so
just
really interesting thing. We actually haven't talked about this very much, of like, you know, before you even were, you know, you weren't even, you were 9, and you know, sometimes the things we say as kids, or the things someone draws a picture or something, and and then later it's like, wow, that makes so much sense. And the whole thing with did you, when you found out projectors were here to see and be seen, and then you're like, oh wow, I wrote this when I was 9, like, did that light bulb go off, and you're like, how was that for you?
I actually just read this a couple of days ago. So a lot of things just kind of in the last, it's crazy that we're doing this because I just looked at my chart and all this stuff, like I just kind of oh my gosh, like all these things in my life are just making my chart, everything in my charts now popping out at me, like, oh, you, this, there, this is what this is, who you are, this is what that is, like yeah, it just came to me.
I really think that's a beautiful way to do the experiment, as far as like, you know, because you could look at a person's chart and then say, right, this is what should be going on, this is how this person should be, and then kind of, you know, you look at the life and then you kind of go, oh, well, you try and edit your life to fit the chart, and that doesn't quite feel right to me. Whereas actually, you know, looking back at life, and like I was saying this to Raluca earlier, like, how do we know? Like, I can look at your chart and I know you a little bit now, having, you know, we've worked together a little, and it's like, well, how do I know what the full expression of your chart looks like for you?
Well, you don't know, because I don't know.
Don't know.
Nobody ever really knows. Like, how could anybody truly know? Because we don't really truly know. So how could somebody else truly know?
Right. And that's why
I know the fact that I can look at somebody else's chart and see way more than I can see of myself, because reflecting back, like, on all the things I've written, I've never have ever written about myself. I'm always writing about other people, because I'm always stuck in my room to write about other people. Yeah.
That's so interesting, with the projector being, you know, our focus is on the other. You know, we are here to know the other. We're here to be, you know, have that focused and penetrating aura focused on the other person. And I guess that's one of the interesting things about, you know, like us taking it in turns to sit in the spotlight. And, you know, it's pretty cool. I think there's some of your, at least one or two of your buddies from the Channel of Judgment group, the
18, yeah.
Yeah. So it's nice that we can take it in turns to you know, to be seen and do that thing. What else did you look back on and say, wow, well, that makes sense being a projector? Like, were there, I know for me, there were a lot of invitations.
I've always had the exact same invitation my entire life, and I've never done anything about it.
So the same one coming back from different people?
Yeah. I mean, in the older I get, I mean, it happens like maybe multiple times a week, and I still am like, I don't know, like, all this, like, it's because it's too much directed at me, and I can direct anything to go and become anything. I feel like I am like.
So what's the invitation? Can you give us the context?
basically, I mean, it doesn't matter what community it's in. It's gonna be just my personal community, you know, home and home life, astrology, HD. But people just when I write, because that's all I've ever done. I've just been writing. People resonate with what I say when I write, and when I'm speaking to them about them, not so much about me. It gets all messy. But when I'm talking about them, I'm able to take whatever that stuff is that I write about, and I'm able to connect it to them, and they just enjoy listening to me talk about them and about the planets and about just about life and just how I view life and how I believe that the whole, you know, everything, you know, as is below or so below is above, or whatever, our entire childhood or upbringing, everything there has to be freed and liberated so that we can make it up to, in astrology we call it the midheaven. But yeah, our roots, they cannot be broken, or we would wither. The tree would die without its roots, without being nurtured, without being, you know, that's that kind of thing. But that's what I'm saying. All these, there's just so many different, it's not like precise enough. I don't know what to do with that. People are just like, go be free, you know, freely do this thing that I just love that you do. To where and how, I don't know. So I just wait for it to feel right, or something else to happen. I don't know.
So here's a question for you. I mean, it's a great question for us projectors, having our undefined sacral and being all about waiting for the invitation. What do you do while you're waiting? How does life roll for you while you're waiting?
I just do what I love, and that's to know as much as I want to know. And you know, if I am not continually doing something that stimulates me and sparks interest and makes me, I can get bored. I'm very bored if I can get bored and like there's nothing. Like if I'm not able to focus my attention on something that's interests me, like my husband will say, there's like nothing there. There's nothing, or is there anything going on in your brain? You just look empty. I'm like, I need to go over here.
Well, you do
go stimulate myself. So I constantly have to be stimulated.
Don't you? You have a totally open head center, and then you only have that one gate, the gate 43, which is a death gate on your ajna. So it's very, very white. So being kind of open in your thinking and in your thought processes and in your mind it makes a lot of sense. But you're a mother as well, right? So that's a big part of your life.
Oh yes, that's all I do. No, it's not all I do.
But
I love it. I just constantly am. So many little people to watch that are all different little creatures, and I can, you know, analyze them. That's what I do.
Sure. And so you
analyze it and like, let me put this in my notes. Let me take a video. Let me organize that.
So you're like a scientist mum. You're kind of like checking out because you've got quite the penta, haven't you? You and your husband have 3 kids together, right? So right. Will you give us the breakdown? Can you give us the ages and the types? Because you've obviously looked up all your kids. So
my husband and I are both emotional projectors. We're the only ones with our emotional centers defined. The rest have open solar plexuses. He's a 2-4, and obviously I'm right 4-6. And then we have a 13-year-old projector. He is a 4-6 splenic, and he has everything defined except for the sacral, the root, I believe, in his solar plexus. Okay. So he's between you, you've got most of the centers, haven't you? You and your son. So there's your husband, your son, and so far it's a projector party. And then a little while longer. Oh my gosh, and that's so crazy. That was an aha moment there. The 3 of us cannot be in a conversation. Like we can't just be the 3 of us, because somebody is usually me going, like I just feel like this. It's just too much. Like it's usually everybody's just like it's like a magnet like this, like, you know, when there's like that, it just doesn't, we can't be just the three. It's like too much. Right. Everybody wants to like.
It's like, you're like,
yeah.
Do I focus on
it's usually me that just feels like,
person?
Yeah, it's like, like, yeah, it's crazy.
So that's a really interesting thing, the projection dynamic, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's an
very
interesting. Right. Okay. And so who came along next? So there's the three of you projectors, 2 emotional, 1 splenic. And was your daughter next?
Yes, and then I have my daughter, my only energy type manifester. She's the 5/2 splenic, and
so she's a 5/2 splenic manifester.
Right. I don't remember her chart. I don't have it in here, but she is crazy. I think Raw says something about children and how they are manifestor children. They're the ones that you're like, we need to get a leash on this one, or because they are just like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Like, you don't ask them. And that's the thing, is my husband's always like, why does she throw this huge fit when I want to change her diaper? I'm like, because you asked her, just do it. But we do work on questions, you know. She's getting good, like, and she's, Mommy, can I please this? But she always expects a yes, you know, like, Mom, can I please have a horse and a birthday cake for for whatever, I don't even know. And I'm like, well, you can't, because I don't have that. She's like, yes, you can.
So this is interesting.
So yeah,
I mean, the manifester. I mean, you've got such an interesting, because you know, we all know lots of generators, right? But a lot of people don't even know a single reflector, and you get to see, you know, a projector, a manifester,
and then so then I have a 1-year-old
and a 1-year-old reflector.
Yeah, we haven't got him. Right.
So you've got all 3 of the minority types as kids.
Yeah, so there's Adeline's chart.
Okay.
Yeah, and then there's.
So she's got that money now. The 2145.
Is that like? Do you see that sacral?
Yep.
Look at all those activations.
So the sacral's pretty much fully defined, but she's a manifester because there's no channels; they're all gates.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's your manifestor daughter, and so you're helping her to learn to inform people of what's going on for her, or she's getting ready to do, and that's very interesting, because Ra said that the manifestor was the only type whose strategy is not intrinsic. You know, like it's natural for projectors to get invitations. It's natural for generators to respond. It's natural for reflectors to take everything in and take time to then come out with something, you know, whether it's a full lunar cycle or just, you know, things happen slowly because they're sampling everything. Whereas the manifestor, I think the manifestor really depends on having, you know, parents who will teach them manners almost, like, you know, not necessarily please and thank yous, but, you know, telling people, I want this, or, you know, actually communicating with the voice to let people know what's about to happen. So that's pretty cool. And how old's your daughter? Is she 3 or something, you say?
2.5.
3.5. 2.5.
2.5. 2.5.
Yeah. I mean, I just wonder how it is for, I mean, there's so many manifestor kids coming through whose parents have no clue about any of this. And you know, they just think, well, my kid's like stroppy, or my kid's like headstrong, or you can't tell them anything. And it's like, hey, they're a manifestor.
She came out that way. Like,
right.
Everybody loved Corbin and Brian. Like Bowen. Okay, I'm gonna go back to Corbin versus Adeline, because I raised Corbin, so I raised Corbin. First of all, he's adopted by my husband. So he adopted him when he was 8. But so I raised him on my own until he was 4, and then we got together. But Corbin, just all these things, like, you know, people would talk about like toddlers, babies, and like, these are the terrible twos and these are the terrible things. Like, he was just born knowing what was right and wrong. He knew you don't run out to the street. You knew you don't, you know, dip your head underwater. You knew you don't put your hand in the fire. You knew that you don't repeat all the cuss words that everybody's saying around you. Like, he still does. He does, like, nobody ever told him don't say cuss words. Adeline, on the other hand, does all the things. All the things that if you say right that kids do with too is what she does. Like 2 days in a row now, I've had to clean my entire house because she smeared poop all over it.
Oh, wow.
Right. Well, I go, like, the 2 times I leave just to go make a run to the store while I leave leave the 2 with my husband, who goes off and leaves the 13-year-old on the couch who's staring at his phone. And I'm like, really?
So it's a full-time job, just keeping track of your daughter who's running out in the street and yeah.
Like, I can't. Oh, I take both kids. Like, she was go outside. Like, but if I take you away, and I'm just after you with my overweight, obese reflector baby. He's not obese, but he's really heavy. He's like heavier than her, but yeah. So he's there. Yeah. So there's her, and then I have my 5-1 reflector. So that's his chart. Yeah. That's her little reflector chart. And that one, the second he came out, I mean, first of all, he came out like instantly, just came right out. I didn't even I got an epidural, and it didn't even get to work because the baby was like, no, I'm coming and I need to come now. My 2 other kids were both born around 4 or something in the evening. So they both are 8th house, which that's astrology, but it's crazy that they both have that there, because a lot of that has to do with your parents and stuff. But he was born at 10:30 in the morning. The second he comes out, they put him on me to nurse. He nurses for an entire hour. Like he just knew what to do. Like, and he looked at me. He opened his eyes and he looked at me, and everything went silent. And it was like peace on earth. I don't know. It was crazy. And he still does. Well, he didn't do that for a long time, but now that's a thing he does when his sister has her meltdowns over, you know, her horse she can't have or whatever thing she wants. He comes to me because he's not somebody that just comes. He comes when he wants. If you say come here, he's like, no, I don't know. He'll come, you know, and he goes right away. He doesn't stay for too long. But he'll come to me when she's having these meltdowns, and he'll sit near me and he'll look at me. And I'm not one to I can't just like stare into your eyes, or it makes me like want to like explode. But he does it, and it's like, please don't stop. And it's like, and he just started doing this. He's done it twice now. And everything around us goes completely silent. Like, it's like she's not even over there screaming, and we're just in this peaceful place together, and we just stare at each other until she stops. He's like the most magical thing I've ever met in my life. I don't know. At the same time, too, he also likes to just come up to me and go and smile and go, oh, and then just smack me in the face. So I don't know. Yeah, those are my kids. That's my family.
And do you have any generators in your life? Do you have
any? Yeah, everybody's a generator. That's not in my little house, in my little penta, which that is interesting too. When we go back to the penta part in my home, when it's just the 3 of us, we still have the open head and open ajna. So it's kind of
That's
like
you,
this,
the
like
2 youngest, right? That you, the manifestor.
Yeah, when my husband goes to work and my 13-year-old goes to school.
Yeah.
So most of the time, it's the 3 of us, and it does kind of feel like, who really is in control here? Who's the like we're all just kind of like, I don't know, blah blah blah. What do we do? We just kind of go with the flow, nothing like. And then the 2 other projectors come in the house, and everything's activated. We're all just like, everybody just goes out of control. Everything just amplified, and I just run out the door. Like, I just sneak out the door. He's like, where'd you go? I was like, I went to go breathe. I went to go find some air. I need a bigger house.
So it's a real difference between the 3 of you, and then and so when you look at the overlay chart, is there a lot of sacral activation going on? I'm imagining that your daughter would have that. She's got a lot of hanging gates on the sacral, so I'm guessing that there would be some activations.
You froze up for a minute, so you said something. My daughter in her sacral. That's the first thing.
Yeah, when you showed us your daughter's chart, she had a lot of hanging gates on the sacral. So
Everyone
pretty much all of them. So
except for five.
okay. So have you got that there again? Have you got that just so you can show us? Just because I clocked
I'm actually
it.
just looking at it, and you see down there her.
Hold that real still for us a second there, Jen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we've basically got all of the sacral gates activated apart from 2. So
Yeah.
that's strong. So I'm guessing that with like someone in your family must bridge those, and then you've got that sacral.
Well, I was just sitting here looking though. Oh, bridging. Let's see. I have the 60. She has the 3. I think my husband Corbin has the 2. Yeah.
I mean, that would make sense with what you were describing.
I'm just noticing about connecting. Look at Bowen's the 3 sacral. Do you see that those 3 sacral channels go into the emotional, to the solar plexus?
From the root.
And then there's outer lines.
Okay. So those 2, so your 2 youngest, between them, have all 3 of those channels going from the root up to the emotional center.
Yeah. I thought that was, you look at those 2 charts and you're like, wow, that's cool. Anyways.
Yeah.
No, there's a lot of connections in our charts. Like my husband's a split definition. His only gate,
And your daughter too.
Yeah, but my husband's got that 16, and I bridge his split. So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so generators. Yeah, I was raised by a generator mother, my stepfather, a generator, and then my younger sister that they had together, which I helped raise her, was a manifesting generator. And then my grandma was a manifesting generator. She lived and died in my house when I was 16. But my mom and I took care of her until she died. We used to switch back at night with the baby monitor who went down there to get her. And she'd always have sundowners, and she had Alzheimer's and stuff. So, and then there was me. Like, just go to your room. Go to your room, you're annoying. We don't want to talk about life. So I was just always up there writing.
Did you enjoy having the space to yourself just to be?
I think I enjoy the space now, but my first 30 years on that 3rd line, no. I was thinking about this too, my 37-40, and then how I have that 55. And that I know where that 37-40 comes from. It comes from not having a normal family, not having that structure, not being able to be a child, and all I wanted was that family connection. I just wanted that to be a part of something, so being the way I was, I was never allowed to be around anybody at home. I was always just like, go to your room. I mean, my stepdad got so weird at one point. He started labeling food and telling me I couldn't eat his food, but then my mom would never buy any food. And then my grandma got to a point where she had Alzheimer's, so she didn't have any food. So I was having to sneak out of my room at night. And it was usually he'd make big things of pasta because I couldn't eat the bread because he would count the bread. So I would get handfuls of pasta, and I tiptoe back to my room. I'm like, eat it fast before somebody opens the door and catches the pasta. But yeah, that was that.
Sounds pretty crazy, Jen.
But I think that's where, so I didn't want to be alone. So then I wasn't allowed to, but then I wasn't allowed to go do things with other kids because my mom always wanted me home so that I could take care of my grandma. I mean, she'd even call me out of school because she just was like, she's just being mean to me and yelling at me. My mom is a perpetual child, which is so funny because they say that about the 43 and then she doesn't have that, but I do. I'm like, do I make her that way? I don't know. But yeah, I just got lost again.
Well, I was really
get lost when I start talking about my childhood. It's such a
it sounds like some pretty, full on stuff if you were kind of put off on your own, and that's pretty intense what you're describing.
Oh, that's where I was getting. She didn't let me go off, and I didn't get to go and socialize with other people So therefore I was always isolated at school because, you know, they'd all formed their relationships and friendships outside of school, but she wanted me there so that I could help her.
So you had a kind of a job as helping your mum look after your gran.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the same time, you weren't in social situations so much as spending a lot of time on your own, apart from when you're being in service. And, you know, you're a 4-6, which means that the first 30 years, your conscious is the 4th line, which is all about the opportunities that comes, the opportunities that come from other people. And then your unconscious is the 6th line, which does the first 30 years, you know, the role model, which has its first 30 years as the martyr, the 3rd line, which
Mm-hmm.
really needs to be out and about, making mistakes, falling out of trees, falling off bicycles, whatever else. I mean, that was my experience anyway.
I didn't realize like how much I didn't know about being like out there. Like I didn't know how sheltered I was and how much, I mean, there was still a lot of things. I mean, I can go on about things in my teenage years too, that, you know, I ran away from home and ended up in a boarding school that ended up getting like, shut down. It was on Dateline.
What age? So you ran away from home and went to a boarding school. What age was that?
Well, I went to live with my dad, who I hadn't talked to since I was in the 6th grade because he would severely beat my brother. But then I was like, I don't want to be with my mom, so I went there. And of course, I knew he'd be like, "Oh yeah, here I have 50-50 custody still, so I can keep her. Go away, police. She can stay here." Well, then here I go. I'm ready to he just lets me do whatever I want. He doesn't care. He doesn't want to be a parent. I'm out, never going to school. Got put on truancy management because I never went to high school, and for one whole semester. And so he was like the mayor of the city that he lived in, and that he didn't want that on his record. So he just sends me off to the cheapest boarding school he can find, which happens to be in Pensacola, Florida, where corporal punishment was still legal at the time. So,
so your dad, so you were looking after your gran. You went to live with your dad and had a whole semester of just kind of just not
doing
going
drugs. My brother gives me drugs, like pot, and then I'm like, sure, let's just these people. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have all these friends. They love me. Yeah, I'll do your drugs, whatever. Let's.
So you did have a bit of a 3rd line experience of trying different experiences.
So then then I learned lessons of that. I'm like, oh, I remember saying, I'm glad I went through that early in life because most people have to go through this later. And then I do fine. I go off to college. Then I meet my son's dad.
So hang on. So then you went off to boarding school, and then you went.
Yeah. This is like we could be out here for hours, like 20 hours for this. Okay, yeah. So then I get sent off to this boarding school.
Quite a contrast.
It's like a Southern Baptist school. My dad's Catholic. I mean, I went to Catholic school when I was a kid. So back then the internet wasn't such a big thing. So my mom's showing me this pamphlet. They're like, yeah, it's a little bit more reserved. You have to wear, you know, you can't be more modest. You can't wear pants. So we go and we buy all these like outfits and stuff. Oh, this lady's like, this is too sexual. Take this away. And so she gives me like prison underwear, big, white, like any underwear that was like colored is like sexual. So I gave these big white underwear and this big white bra and this like, I mean, they took me to the Goodwill and bought me, I mean, just most hideous things you could imagine. I'm not allowed to look at anybody in the eye. I'm not allowed to talk to anybody. There are other girls there. There's the lady who ran it. Her name was Mama Hen. And you say, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. She had a helper who reminded me of, you know, that Charlize Theron movie where she I think Monster or something. She's like a serial killer. That's what that lady reminded me of. It wasn't really even a school. It was a little house in like not a good area of town. And then we had school in this old trailer in the backyard. And she's like, well, here's these workbooks. You just go do those and those will be your schooling. Anywho, there was a 13-year-old girl. There was a closet in one of the rooms. And when I got there, they were like, well, you can't go over there. That's where, when you're on red, you go there. I'm like, well, what does that mean? Because I had one girl who she had been there for a while, so she was allowed to mentor me and look at. I could talk to her, but only when Mama Hen said it was guide time, you know. So she tells me that this girl's on red. She's 13, you know. She has to wear this red dress. She's not allowed to come out. She only gets to come out when we go to church, or when we would go to like around like Jehovah's Witness people and pass out flyers. And she had to kneel on her knees all, like, most of the day. She only got bread and butter for each meal, and she had her water in there, and she was constantly having to just, you could hear her in there saying prayer, and you could hear, they would call them licks, and they were just, she'd have so many licks that they would give her, and they would smack her, and I never got to see her come out of there when I left. But I didn't get to see, I would have been there, but my mom, even though when they sent me there, my dad had to sign over rights, my mom did too, just because I was in a whole other state, but still legally, for her to be able to administer corporal punishment on me, licks, my mom had to sign this thing, which they had to do through the mail anyway. So by the time my mom gets this, she's like, no, like, you didn't tell me about this. So she ends up driving there, calls the local police, and blah, da, 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 da. And so my punishment was running laps, writing Bible verses, and every Friday when everybody got to watch a Disney movie, I had to watch the exact same movie, which was about the apocalypse or whatever, what's the Revelations book. And it was this creepy guy, like, I just, over and over and over. And I couldn't shave my legs. That Friday's when you got to shave your legs, but I never had to shave my legs because I was so bad.
So do you when you look back at all this, I mean, this is a crazy time. There's all sorts of different experiences.
I mean, this is just one story. There's so many.
Right. So how do you tie? So I'm like, right, how does this fit in with human design? And so
this is my third line.
For me is like, okay, you've got this recurring theme of being like ostracized or separated, like you're not allowed to have this connection. Now, do you think that was just how it was, or do you think it's something to do with the fact of the people around you could feel your penetrating aura, and they were like wanted to kind of push that aside?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you thought that they were uncomfortable around you as a projector. Do you think that was what was going on, or?
Oh yeah, they're still uncomfortable being around me. The difference is that now they come to me, my parents, for help and advice, because they don't have anybody. Like, my mom has 2 kids that don't talk to her.
So you feel more invited, so that you're seen and valued and invited.
My mother is, I mean, even she's different towards me now. I think that she knows I don't need her like I did when I was a single mother. She would have, I'm her only person. Nobody else can stand her. She's just too much. So, yeah.
And what else? So
but
what
anyways,
else?
I'm trying to talk about my third, I don't even know how I got to there, because my third line life. So basically I'm trying to say that I had that till like I was 17. Then I just went like crazy, because I went from being basically like locked up to go do whatever you want. And I didn't know what that meant. I don't know. I didn't know. I was just like, like I was better. I felt safer, I think, in this locked up situation. I felt like more me there. That's what I do.
You went from lockdown into anarchy, back into lockdown in a boarding school. Then you went off to college, and was that like a kind of a chaotic situation?
I didn't go off to college. I just went to like community college. I was still working. I worked every night, every weekend at the hospitals as a nursing assistant. And then I went to school part-time.
Okay.
And then I met my son's dad. He was the reason why I am in a good relationship. Like, he was everything bad that there could be in any bad man. That was that man. But then I finally broke free of him. My son was 9 months old, and I just went and just signed up for nursing school one day, just applied. I was like, I didn't think my grades were good. I really hadn't put any effort towards it because of the relationship I was in, and I got in. And so I just started right away. I went right from him to nursing school. But then once I got out of all of that, and that I started, you know, trying to be free again, and was making poor decisions for a while. So then my Saturn return started.
Right. So I think you've answered pretty thoroughly the question about how was your sixth line in your first 30 years. It sounds like.
I like to tell this story because
yeah,
it's so different from who I am now. It just like, I mean, it didn't just go away. I mean, it was a rough Saturn return. It was great. It was wonderful. The end of it was wonderful. I learned to meditate. I had really, really negative energy that I released. I mean, really everything was negative until right at the end when I had this amazing moment at the end of my Saturn return where I mean, it was like one of the deepest meditative states I've ever been in. And I just arrived in this green field with trees around it. It was really beautiful. I just kind of looked around for a while, and then I felt pulled towards this one side of this grassy area. There was trees and there was a bridge. I go over this bridge, and it was beautiful going over this long bridge. I walked slowly looking over this little stream that was like ice clear with fish that belonged in the ocean, not in a stream, but they were colorful. And as I get over the bridge, there's another clearing of grass, but on this side, it wasn't just green trees. It was just colorful. It was flowers everywhere. And I stood there for the longest time, just taking it all in. And then I felt another pull, and I look over, and there's a little girl way off into the clearing. And I go to her, and as I get closer, I realize that it's me, a little me. And she was warm and inviting and wise. Like, I just feel this wisdom of the universe in living in this little being. And she just raises her arms up to me, and I come down to her, and I felt like her little arms just went around my entire body, and we just enmeshed into all of this scenery as one being. And I believed that we were just going to walk off, and I'd wake up and she'd be a part of me, but she stayed behind, but she put inside of me something. And when I woke up, everything had changed. There used to be, so my chart, you can see all that pressure, all that stuff at the bottom. I've always had this ball on top of my head that I felt was like this heavy weight that, like, I was always waiting for it to fall and drop on me, and everything was just going to go smash. But when I woke up, it was like, I just grabbed it, I felt like, and I realized it was just like hollow, like a ornament. It didn't have any weight. It was make-believe. And from then on, it's like everything just started flowing through me. It wasn't anything different from before, but all of that other nonsense, all that 34-40 thing where I thought I needed all of this family, community stuff, that wasn't really, it wasn't a physical sense that I had missing. It was everything else. And I feel like now it's like, I have that single definition where, it goes from the 58 through to the 44 to the 26 to the 40 to 37. But I feel like it spits back out through my Mercury, my 55 Mercury. That's how I feel like that all happened. Like, it all just kind of like came out that way. That's how I feel.
So here you are single definition, because you have the 3740, the channel of family. You got the 2644, which is the one that's called the sales channel, influencing the tribe.
But the fear of the past, that one right there was the thing that I liberated. I feel like I always had the fear of the past coming back to get me.
And then you have,
and I have Saturn there too. That's where my Saturn is. So,
well, there's a lot. I mean, you're obviously into a lot of the details. Can I ask you a question, Jen?
Yeah.
When you were describing that period of time for your Saturn return, was it days, weeks, months, years? What was the period of time that you experienced it?
Many years. It was
like 28 to 30, something like that.
Yeah, but you know, for me, this is an astrology thing, so I'm gonna have to tell you this because this is gonna explain it. I have Saturn where my ascendant is. Where your ascendant is.
Could you maybe just in the interest of I mean, could you explain your experience of how that was? Like,
well, it started because I was saying I have Scorpio, I have Pluto in this 12th house thing. So when Saturn has to go through your 12th house, if you're in astrology, it usually doubles the time that it lasts.
So is this where Saturn return begins at slightly different times for different people?
Yeah, because the 12th house is like bringing all of that. It's all that stuff that you shove down in there.
Okay.
And it brings it all up. So when Saturn goes over your 12th house, even if it's not your return, it's always going to go, it's going to make you purge all this stuff and try to teach you a lesson. It doesn't always teach us lessons, but it's going to try really hard to make you spit all that crap out that you don't want to deal with. And that's what happens.
Sounds like some kind of plant medicine or Cambo or something like that in an actual sense. Like
so
stuff coming up to be purged. And I guess you're now on the roof, right? So that's your the middle phase of the sixth line.
Yeah. So and that's what I'm saying. It's like I feel like I'm a separate person, but I'm not. Like it's like that person is like my reference of life for me to be this opportunist role model type person, you know, like I was always trying to get opportunities for myself. They were never presented to me, and now opportunities are coming to me. And then, you know, I look back and I use that to relate to how do I get my message out through all of the reference points throughout my lifetime. So now when it was like I could not stand to be in my own presence alone, I couldn't deal with it anymore because I was always so alone in all my thoughts. I didn't even want to deal with them anymore. That's what was my third line. And now all I want to do is be alone with my thoughts. Like if I could just sit alone forever right now, that's how I could just be happy. Like that's how I feel. So I feel like I feel like that 40-37 is more dissolved, not so prominent to me. It's just kind of a natural sense of life. Like I'm always going to have people around. I'm never going to be alone, right? But I want to be alone. It's like I had to manifest. It's like I manifested this. I'll never be alone thing, but I'm okay with that. But I feel more connected to my 1858. That 4426. I don't know. I don't even know anything about that. I feel like it just bridges those two together. And what I was saying on my chart, like how I feel, like this is how I feel. I just make this up in my head. But if you were to start from that 58 and go through that channel to the 4426, back down to the 40 to the 37, I feel like then I release all of that through my 55 where my Mercury is. It's like that, the emoting, the abundance of everything. It's like I take in all that abundance and I release it out through whatever kind of communication that, you know, I can through Mercury, because that's all about the communicating.
So let's just break that down a little bit, because there's a lot. Can we unpick that a little bit? Because there's a lot there, isn't there? Because, you know, we've got this picture of the root being one of the pressure centers, and when that's defined, it obviously means that I have defined root as well. So
do you always feel that? Do you always feel your root?
Huh?
Can you always feel it? I always feel my root at all times. I just always feel it there. Always like buzzing at all times. Like it never goes away.
For me personally, I feel like I am good under pressure. Like I'm okay with being under pressure. And actually, as a projector, I sometimes find that some pressure can be useful as a motor. So that can, create some energy to do things that need to be done. So we're saying that it can, that can flow, the energy can move up to the spleen. And it was really interesting to me, because then obviously that's moving across to the will and then across the emotional center. And of course the emotional wave is the energy is moving both ways. But what was really interesting was the way you said about the 4426, because I've got it in red as well, unconscious. And what you said was, I don't know about that. And that's really interesting to me, because the red is the unconscious. The red is the design. It's like who we are on a level that's deeper than anything that we know with the mind. So that makes a lot of sense. It's like this is almost like a latent ability, you know, like the capacity to influence others in the tribe. And with you being a sixth line, a 4-6, it could be that this is going to really come into effect later in your life when you get called down from the roof. Yeah, you know, and invited.
I believe that, honestly, I have this, apparently isn't a thing, I was told, but in human design, but I have my Jupiter return. It's on this year in January. And I feel like that's going to activate that's 26, because at that 44 it makes sense. That 26 I have a hard time with, but I feel like that's going to activate that 26 in me.
So there's your Jupiter on the 26th in the red, the unconscious, and the 58 in the conscious. Okay, so that's okay. So you're saying you're getting your Jupiter return, so that may make more sense then. And you said that you feel quite strongly more connected with the channel of judgment down there. How's that? Because that's in the collective circuitry, isn't it?
Because I mean, I feel like that's my life's work. Is that you know, I think the channel of judgment's just an amazing channel to me, and I hate that it's called the channel of judgment. You know, it's like bringing the passion and the beauty of the root up in the joy to this 18 that's trying to make things, you know, really trying to take the time to evaluate everything in a logical, understanding way, to make it perfect enough to take it and give it out to the world so they can receive it and make them and be able to give it to them in a way that sparks joy for them by having that 58. That's what I believe. I believe that the passion from that root, you know, is driving that you know, that 18. And I got that 9, my unconscious sun being that 9 that can tackle the great small details of, you know, I enjoy that. That's like my joy. I thoroughly enjoy that. That's my favorite thing to do, is just attack the details. And that 18 likes that. It loves that about me. And so I feel like they kind of talk to one another, and the 58s, you know, takes it and puts the passion into it, so that when it comes out of me and it's given out to the collective, people don't see it so logically, and they're able to receive it better because it has that spark in it.
So for those that don't know about the people may not be familiar with all of the, you know, we've got people who are new to human design and people with more experience, but so you're saying gate 58 is the joyous, is the gate of vitality. So there's that energy coming up from the root. And then gate 18 is the gate of correction, work on what has been spoilt. So it seems like that's where more of the judgment is, where there's all this joyous energy coming in, but it's then like, well, what's correct for the collective? You know, what's the correct way that we should be doing this as a group of people? And did you have, because a lot of people with that channel talk about like, hey, I had to learn that it's not for the individual. You know, it's not for me to be judging myself. It's not for me to be judging the individual or the tribe, the people of my tribe. It's for the collective. So how's that shown up?
Yeah, so, you know, you see that my unconscious Mars is there. So I feel like my first 30 years was kind of ruled a lot by that Mars.
So Mars in the 6th line, Buddhahood, on gate 18. Yeah.
I can't I'm trying to explain it without using astrology, but that Mars was ruling over Saturn, which Saturn is basically the ruler of me. But Mars is so much, Saturn's patient and lets Mars go be all wild and carefree and, you know, airy and like. And so, yeah, but it did make me take things more inward. Like, how can I fix me to fix the other? That's what I, you know, it wasn't like I'm like, what can I do to mutate my presentation to others? And who, you know, basically it was like change me. What I am is not good enough for the other. And I mean, I still wanted to give out this message, this thing, because that's all I did was constantly analyze the world around me. But I was also at the same time had no confidence, and I wanted to just do and didn't take the time for me. I didn't take time to slow down and say, okay, you can't be this person that you want to be until you become the person that you are. So I was just push, being a Martian, you know, and, you know, I basically am. What are we? We're Martians in this world, projectors, right? We're aliens.
Right. So it seems like, I mean, it does seem like it's a patient thing, isn't it, for you?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things here in your chart saying, okay,
Learning the patience, which now
wait till you're 50 and you come down off the roof. Okay, that's a lot of waiting. Wait to be invited. That's a lot of waiting. Okay, you've got Mars on the 18, but even that's on the 6th line. So it's like, okay, and then Jupiter's like, whoa, chill down a bit. And we haven't talked yet about your emotional authority, and that's of course also that's also like, hey.
Well, that's the thing. I feel.
Go ahead.
That's why I was telling you about that 55. I feel like that 55 is really where I go, my go-to gate in that center. I feel like that's where I feel like I can really. It's like I feel like it's my surfing board. Like I can really, I can use that 55 to really. It helps me. I don't really get those huge emotional waves like I used to. I used to be in a crashing wave, like typhoon,
like a pretty bumpy ride.
37.
Huh? It's a bit smooth.
Yeah, it's like nothing. It's like it never made it back to this. It's like it just kept going from 37 to 58, and 37, 50, back and forth, and it never ever made it to the 55. And then I feel like I connected to it somehow, and now I feel like it's my little surfing board,
Okay.
and it helps me just ride the wave through my writings, through my studying, through understanding everything I can. I don't understand everything, obviously.
Yeah, so this is gate 55, the gate of spirit, abundance.
It's like line 1, so I feel like, you know, like I talk about being able to investigate, be that investigative person for me is where I can release the emotions through that.
Mm-hmm. So how about your open centers? Is there anything you want to share about your 5 different, any one of your 5 different undefined centers?
I feel like I feel like, you know, what is that? The G center starts with the magnetic monopole. Is I was saying that right? I feel like that's my magnet. It's my draws, you know, I don't know if draws people in. It's where I guess grab them in through my open head. I'm able to suck you down in,
right,
and take in who you are, figure you out, and then spit you back out.
I think we might have a bit of a delay on the line, so we might need to just sometimes it helps if I sometimes try and take a breath before, you know, just have some space, because I think we've just got a slight delay on the line, so that's possibly why we're on top of each other a bit.
Oh, right.
But yeah, those so those open centers are the yin. That's the receptive. They don't have a consistent and reliable supply of their own energy. And especially your head being totally open. So it's kind of like a mirror for the, you know, it's just like you show people back what they're thinking.
And that's I'm glad you mentioned that, because that is something that I actually feel like I'm doing very well at. And it's is the knowing what people are going to say before they say it. So I get very anxious to speak, because it's almost like I already heard what you said. So it's like you're saying the story over again. So I'm not like every person I know, but a lot of the time I do. And I've learned to just sit with it. And just,
it is a pressure center, isn't it? It's a pressure center, and it's totally open. Mm-hmm. So, you know, the not self there is like, where am I thinking about things that don't matter?
Right. And why do I have, it's the thing that bothers me the most about it is talking to other people. And I feel like there's like, it's like when people talk to me, like in aura, like when they're next to me in like, an aura, it's like I hear it's multiple voices talking at the same time. Like I can hear their thoughts and their speech, and it's hard for me to focus because I'm getting good at teaching myself to just make my head block their thoughts out so that I can just hear what they're trying to say to me and not trying to answer something that they're not trying to ask me. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just letting that land. It's like when you describe it, it's almost like a feeling of like, that there's all that space where things can bounce around inside there. There's also the pressure. Like, how do you debug these open centers? Like, what's your practice for working with those? Do you use those questions, or like how do you do that with those undefined centers?
I mean, the writing, obviously, I do that a lot. Because even like if I, before I comment like on a Facebook post, I will go into like my notes or something and I'll write the comment. Because first of all, usually if I really do feel led to make the comment, I will make way too long of a comment. So I will edit it because, but then also I can write the comment. And then by the time I'm done and I reread it, I'm like, I don't want to make a comment. I feel like that G center is really the thing.
We just missed a little bit there. I don't know if Raluca, did it glitch a little for you there as well? So I heard you saying about that, you read something and then it's like there's a lot of energy there and you type it out in your notes, but then I think you were saying you might not post it because it's like, actually, I don't want to post that anymore.
Right. Yeah. So and I do that with everything. If I have something with my husband I want to discuss that's been, we need to talk about, I will write it and I will sit with it. I don't just say things.
It sounds like, and also from knowing how you draw things out and you do things physically, it sounds like you use the writing or the drawing or the organizing, the filing to actually maybe physically process some of that pressure.
Right.
Are all these ideas or what someone's going to say. It sounds like that pressure, maybe you're using that as a way to kind of release some of that pressure. Does that fit? That's
exactly right. And I think that that's why I say now my childhood was my greatest gift. That trauma that I endured when I was a little girl, that made me not want to talk is what made me learn to write when I was too little to even learn.
For a while, yeah?
Yeah, it was a couple of years until I started kindergarten. And, okay, so I don't remember this story, but I was told this story when I was 20, and we'll get to the part of 20 because it's a very cool story. Her name is Mrs. Von Lintel, and I apparently wrote this story. It probably wasn't anything that great, but for a 5-year-old, she thought it was great. And so she calls me up to her desk, and I was so afraid to go up there. And she said, "Can I hug you?" And she when she told me the story, she was like, "You were like, like, no, but okay." So she gives me this hug, and she says, you can talk." And she handed me my story. And she said, I came into school the next day and I was talking. So we go back to when I'm 20 years old. I'm working at the hospital at night as a CNA. And I have a patient come in that night that I have to prep for surgery. And I go in there and I realize it's her.
Oh, wow.
And she only has one leg. And I was prepping her to have her other leg removed. And she was smiling and she was happy. And all she wanted to do was talk about that day. That was the first thing that came out of her mouth. She was like, "You can talk." That's what she said to me. And I was like, yeah. Like, I hadn't even really, I think at that point too, I don't believe I even remembered a lot of that. I think I had, like, that just kind of was like pushed aside. And then I forgot about it. And then somebody was recently brought it up and I was like, I've never told anybody this. And now I'm telling everybody. So, yeah. that was that. And I don't know where that came from either. Okay. This is why, like, I never know where my stories are going or where they came from. But,
well,
that's where, that was my gift. And so, and then I'm always sent off into a space where, you know, I didn't have a phone, you know, or anything. So I didn't have TV. I had books and paper. So that's what I did. I didn't have anybody to talk to. I didn't have a phone. I just had paper and some books. I didn't have the internet. So I just wrote and drew, and I've always done that. So, but I mean, the older I get, I change the way I do things. I'm glad to have, I think having the internet's a great thing for me to be able to just be like, okay. But I think my openness is the best part of me. Like this stuff down here, I don't know. I see myself as all those open centers. I don't resonate so much with the stuff that's colored in. I guess I think because I've always known, like, I'm too much. I've got too much coming out of me. I have too much ideas. I have too much this. I have too much that. And you know, you come in and I just take in who you are and I spit it back out at you. I've always done that. I've always known that about myself, and I've always hated that about myself. But now I'm just like, this is me. Like, I can't, I know people say it's my not self, but how can you spend your whole life knowing that that's not what you should do, but you cannot control it? So I don't know. To me, I don't know. I just feel like it's a part of me, and I just have to find the right way to express it better, I guess.
Is it okay if I share what my feeling on that?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah. I guess, like, you know, how I work with the undefined centers is like, you know, first of all, it's like wherever you are right now is perfect because it's where you are. And especially as a sixth line, having those first, you know, the first 30 years, you know, there's some interesting third line stuff going on. And you're now in that phase of digesting that and making sense of it. And, you know, the more crazy shit's going on with the third line in the first 30 years, you know, that's going to take, you know, if it takes 30 years to go through all those experiences, it's not unreasonable to think, well, hey, it might take 20 years to start to really digest that, right? So are you 36 now?
I will be in February.
Right. So you're like a third of the way through. You're not even a third of the way through this phase of being on the roof as a sixth line. So, right. You know, and this is the thing of where, you know, I'm always really cautious when someone says, oh, that's your not self. I'm like, well, it could be. And there are a few people that I do try, like John Martin is someone that having worked with him, I am learning to trust. If he says to me, can't, you know, but he doesn't go, that's your not self. You know, it's not like, here's the not self police. So he just laughs, you know, he's like, oh yeah. So
we can always control getting like a cold, right? We're not always gonna be perfect. If we were, you know, that's not me. I'm not a cold. I'm not
well, someone gets a fever.
Not enough. Yeah.
If you look at the Rudolf Steiner way of looking at medicine and growth, the fever is an incarnating, I mean, this is not human design, but the fever in that is a part of the growth process. Now, being a sixth line, having the undefined centers, it's like your job isn't to all of a sudden just be totally not have any not self. Your job is to learn how that all works. You know, for all of us, we've all got at least one open center, right? Like anywhere between one, Martina's got one because she's a quad split with 8 defined. Raluca's got 7 open centers. Now, if we as projectors go, oh my God, I'm really fucked up because I'm all, you know, we are fucked up. We are, I mean, I'm speaking for myself. We are conditioned.
We're humans.
With all these open centers, and especially around the sacral, especially around doing stuff the whole time and being busy. And, you know, it's like hey, you can't shortcut that wisdom. You know, someone going, oh, you're in your not self. Well, I may be, but does that help me to learn the lessons? And I feel this is really beautiful about human design, where anyone that's got this sixth line, it's like, hey, you know, if we measure ourselves in terms of our beauty physically, you know, let's face it, you know, 25, 30, we're definitely on the way down. But if we're looking at this in terms of wisdom accumulated as a human being, we're just getting started in the middle of our life, you know, and coming into our prime at 50, you know, with this, where this wisdom can be brought to bear. That's where, you know, we've got the head center where, and you're young in the experiment with human design, right? So it's like, where am I thinking thoughts that don't matter? And I really felt like what you explained about your process of what you do with those thoughts and how you put them on paper or like release that pressure. For me, I feel that's a real gift in this conversation, because I got to know you a little bit better. I'm like, that makes sense. And I asked you, I was like, what do you think about this? And you're like, yeah, that's how it is. So that's really cool for me, because I'm learning something, right? And then it's like, okay, you've got the open throat. And, you know, it's a big deal. The open throat is like, you know, where am I communicating? Where am I trying to attract attention? Like, where am I doing stuff because I want to be seen? And of course, as projectors, even more so, because we want to be seen, we want to be recognized. And then, you know, for projectors with an open throat, it's like, look at me, you know?
I feel like mine's more about like what, like trying to take that openness, like whatever I'm grabbing from you and through my open G center, that I'm trying to release out whatever that I feel of you, so that you're able to comprehend what I'm saying. And that is my biggest, like hardest thing, because I think, you know, I say this about how I didn't speak when I was so young, and that's when your formative years, right? So I think that somewhere down there was like a disconnect with my speech. It's just all just kind of just there's no, I don't feel like speech comes from anywhere, but like it just comes like this. So I don't feel a mind connection to my mouth.
Okay.
I feel like at the things I'm saying, I'm feeling this thing, and I feel like, oh, you want this? You want this? Oh, like, oh, you want this? Like, it's just like me grabbing things from my environment, trying to give you these things that you guys are searching for. Because other than that, I don't really want to talk. I just want to talk. I just want to get like that pressure of like other people's identities that they're trying to like, I feel these things and I just want to give them to them so that I can go over by myself.
Yeah. I mean, I get a feeling like, I don't know, for me, I feel like I'm at my most powerful when I'm kind of waiting. And then if I'm invited, it's like, okay, so I'm going to hit the target as accurately as I can. And then it's like, and I'm like, am I on the mark here? Is this person feeling me? And it's like, yeah. But yeah, that's interesting. The wisdom.
I feel like I'm like, you know, I'm looking through the bullet, like the gun, like, and I'm like looking, and or like the dart, you know, and I feel like I've been trying so hard, and I throw it, and it's like 50 darts came out, and I'm like, where did those come from? Or, you know, like, there's like 50 people behind me, and they all threw the darts, and I don't know which one's mine. And that's how I feel.
Yeah. Right. Well, I mean, there's obviously something going on with your voice of maybe, you know, maybe the cork was stopped in for some time, and it's like all that, you know, those years you weren't speaking, it's like, well, some of that's got to come out or something. But I mean, what you described was like having a shotgun, wasn't it? Like, yeah, like all the pellets flying out.
Automatic. Like, which one was mine? I don't know. What did I just say? There's like 1,000 things. I was just trying to, like, that's where I'm at. But I've been doing that. That's my whole life. My whole life I've been trying to figure that out. I think about it all the time. So I don't know. But no, I like what you say about the journey, about getting older. I'm not in any hurry to grow up. To grow old. Well, I mean, I feel like I'm still growing up. I can't look at myself. It's hard to look at yourself as a grown up. You know, it reminds me of that Alan Watts quote, you know, the one about life is not a journey. It's a dance. You know, a journey is like you have a destination. You have somewhere you have to go. Mm-hmm. The dance, you know, like you work at the journey, but like music, you don't work the piano, you play the piano.
Right.
The piano curates the dance. And You're not really going anywhere. You're just perfecting this dance and you're playing the piano. Maybe you add in a violin or this or that. This isn't exactly what he says, but this is I can't remember the whole thing. But basically what he's saying is like, quit looking at life as a journey, because if you keep looking at a journey, once the closer you get to the destination that you're trying to get to, it starts dissolving. So you don't even notice that you got there. You could have gone long past your destination, because once you get close enough to it, you can't see it anymore. It's too close up. It's like trying to put a piece of paper to your face, you know, and trying to read it. So if you just know that you probably just danced right by.
I think I saw that.
I have it on my little playlist. If you get on my page, I have my Inspire the Dance playlist that I have on my profile. You can click on it. It's the very first one. It's my favorite. So.
Yeah, I remember he said like if it was like working the piano and it was about the destination, then the shorter piece of music the better.
Yeah, maybe we could link that in the description if people can watch it. You know, like when you put it on Facebook, I think that would be something you could link, or like they could do it when they now or whatever, or on Facebook. You can put it in the.
That was wasn't it?
On YouTube.
Like five balls flying out.
YouTube, somewhere, places. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel that, I definitely feel like, I'm just curious about how it works, your emotional authority. Because it definitely feels like sometimes in conversation with you, it's not always the most spacious, right? It's like, you know, when someone finishes your sentences?
Right. I don't finish my sentences.
But it's almost like you finishing, I don't know if it's my sentence, but it's also in 5 different directions. And I guess I find that like when an idea comes out, it's like here's an idea coming out, and it's kind of like looking for the way to land and go like that.
Yeah. Right. Because I started off because how it makes sense to me, but then I start saying it, and then I start feeling this energies around me of it not flowing to them like it was flowing through me. So then I tried to redirect it, and that's why I kind of go, okay, that's not clicking. I need to stop here, you know, but that's me. This is my learning process, because I used to just ramble on and on and on and on, and you got lost way long time ago and never got anywhere with you because I just lost you at the beginning. So now this is me perfecting my art, I guess. If that makes sense. Yeah. That's just me.
If I got it?
Huh?
Can I see if I got it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's hear it. Yeah.
So it felt like what I got from that, it was like a little light bulb. It was like, it's almost like, you know, it's not just like a dart. It's kind of like something wanting to find its way through. And it's like a little remote controlled drone bomb or something. And it's like, but as it's going along, you're then trying to read the other person and be like, is this going the right way? And then you'll like adjust the course a little bit. And like, what if I tweak it that way a bit? And then you're watching it, and then you're like, okay, but that doesn't feel like, maybe I'll go that way. So it's kind of like you're looking for the place where it lands.
Right.
And it's like you're with all that openness, you're obviously feeling the other person. There's all the energy of the motors behind it. And I get a feeling like like, is something about, like, is it okay to kind of share this with you? Because it's sort of just coming through.
I'm, you know how I'm open to all that. I love that stuff. Yeah.
So it's almost like, that's cool. It's cool. It's like, it's almost like there's no time for follow through, because you're trying to then correct the course as it goes along. And so we did this exercise when we were doing speech, and it was like, you do the motion, just try this. You do the motion, and it's like throwing a discus. Okay, so imagine, whichever is your dominant hand, imagine you've got a discus. Okay, so you know it's the round thing like that, like a little flying saucer, right? So, and you put your 3 fingers over it like that. Just make out like you're doing that now. Show me your.
You want me to do this?
Yeah. You left-handed or right-handed?
Oh.
That'll be your dominant hand, yeah? So stand up.
I have really bad arthritis right now, so it's really hard for me to do that.
Okay, well just hold it in that kind of. Go on, stand up. Let's play this game.
You want me to stand?
Yeah, stand up.
Okay.
You might need to adjust the computer a little.
Oh, my computer. That's funny.
Yeah. Phone, whatever.
Phone.
Okay. So I want you to just imagine there's a weight of
I'm in a little tiny room. Okay.
Huh?
I'm in this teeny tiny library room. Okay.
Okay. Well, don't hurt yourself, but just imagine, just let your body rotate, and imagine that you've got this discus, and you're kind of winding it up a bit.
Oh my God.
You're warming it up a bit.
Okay, I'm warming up.
Okay.
I'm warming up my disc. Okay.
It's like when you're swinging it, the arm, if you can be, that's it. There it is. It's straight. Okay. So you're going to go like there, then you're going to wind it back again. Wind it back. Once more. Wind it back. And then you're going to release.
I'm winding it back because I keep hitting the wall.
Well, okay. But you
this reminds me of softball. I used to when I pitched.
It's okay. You can practice this. But let me give you the word. Can I give you these words? It was a speech exercise from the Chekhov method of acting that I was taught. So this could be a very powerful thing.
Okay. Okay. The Chekhov.
The words. Chekhov was a Russian playwright, and he worked with Rudolf Steiner to bring some of the unseen things into the speech. And a lot of it was working with the gesture of the body as the words come out of the mouth, right? So the words are from Shakespeare, and it goes, I think it's from Caesar or something. It goes, friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. So just try the words. So you got friends. Say it with me. You ready? Here we go. Friends.
Romans.
Countrymen. Lend me your ears. And the really cool thing about this is that then you allow, once you release the discus, the imaginary discus, or you can do it with the real one if you've got a space in the outside, you actually wait until the damn thing lands, right? So you're going like this. Okay, so here's the actions. You're winding up. How does it go like this? Friends, Romans, countrymen. No, I got it the wrong way around. Okay, so you say it on the front. Let's try again. Okay, here we go. So it's friends, wind back. Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. And then you wait for it to land, and then you're done.
Okay.
So you can try that one. And it's really cool because
there we go.
In the kind of in the first part, it's kind of like you're lining up. What is it that's going to come out here? You're really gathering, you're gathering. And then when you release it, you put everything into it. You watch the thing flying through the air. Lend me your ears. And there's that moment of like, whoosh. And it falls. And that's the time, you know, when you kind of committed, it's like you fired the arrow, you've launched the discus, and it just takes that time to then land. And there's nothing you can do then, you know, it's like you've set it off on its trajectory, but you still hold the presence with it until the damn thing hits the ground. So that's something I think you could have some fun with.
I'm surely enjoying watching you.
Well, so was Inese apparently, but I think we scared your other friend away, who was from the 1858 group.
I don't even know who was on here.
Now I'm teasing. It's all good. It's all good. So I'd like to know a little about your emotional authority, and how that works for you.
Yeah, I think that I was explaining this, that it was a wave in my first 30 years. I mean, always crying or always happy or always, you know, like I would think about something, I'd be, what? Or, you know, like everything I think about my past, and then I would just cry about it. I mean, I was always just emotional. And now I don't have deep emotions. Like I have control of them. I have emotions. They're just not erratic. Like I said, I feel like I feel like I was in that 37-40, you know, I feel like I was just staying in my channels and I wasn't letting anything release out. I feel like I release it out now. I think I release it out through that 55 is what I was telling you earlier. I feel like that 55 regulates my emotions, and it's my surfboard is what I was calling it. My surfboard.
So as well as, so what about if we just look at it on a macro level of, like, you know, you've got a decision to make, right?
Yeah.
So the advice, I mean, and I'm not emotional, so I just observe. So this is why I'm asking you how it is for you, right? So emotional authority, there's no truth in the now. Like splenic's all about the now. That's all we know is what's happening right now. But with the emotional authority, it's like, okay, should I move to Hawaii or not? Okay, I'm going to sleep on that. I'm not sure still. And I'm probably never going to be really certain. But over time, I kind of feel like on balance, it's going to be, the pluses are going to outweigh. So I go to Hawaii.
Right. I got an analogy that I use.
Great.
With this, and because I do this, and this is literally, if and I don't get to go shopping like this much, it's usually just groceries, but if I get to go shop, just to shop, I love to go to Goodwill stores. I love secondhand stores. So I'll get a cart, and I'm at the Goodwill store, and I'll just start picking these things. My cart will be full. I'll maybe even go get clothes and try all of them on, and then I'll walk through because I don't feel like it's time to go. And by the time my cart meets the front, there's nothing left in it, and I walk out the door, and I could have been there for 2 hours. And this is basically how I shop. I do the same thing on Amazon. I'll see something, and I click, and I click, and I click, and I click. And then my husband will get on there. He's like, what is all this shit? I'm like, I wasn't ready. I didn't know. And he's like, well, I got to buy something. I'm just buying this crap. I don't have time to talk to you about this. I'm like, okay. I'll return it probably. I get a coupon at Kohl's if I take it back to Kohl's. Anyways, that's my emotional authority. I think things through. If I think too long, I can't even like do. But then sometimes if I think too rash, you know, like right away, then it all comes out wrong, or I end up buying something or whatever it is, and it wasn't, if I just would have taken a little bit more time. But then sometimes if I take too much time, then it doesn't come, you know, it's like it's finding that wave, you know, one that like I can keep the surfboard on, not the one that like, if I'm going too slow, I'm just going to fall off. Or if I'm going, I don't know, I don't surf, but you know, if I go through like a huge wave, it's going to just, you know, so just being able to surf the wave. And that's where I can find the answer.
That's a really nice analogy, that picture of like, okay, if you're looking to acquire something, if you're shopping, like that you've got this whole, and it's same if you're on the internet or if you're in a store, it's like you know, you do it in stages, don't you? Because you pick out all the things that you think you like. For me, if I'm buying a pair of pants in the charity shop, I pick out all the ones that like they look okay and they look like they might fit me. So that's like, I might take out 10 pairs of pants. I don't need 10 pairs of pants, right? But I have a rule for myself where if I'm going to buy it, it's got to fit well and look good. I've got to like it and it's got to fit and be comfortable. So then I try them on and then I sort them into 2 piles. And so, right? And then there's another sort of set of filtering where then you get to the checkout and you're like,
yes, that's me.
So it's nice, isn't it? It's kind of like you're building up your big decision in a series of micro decisions of like, okay, could I possibly be interested in this thing? Yes. Okay. Now I'm going to take time to see if this thing's a good fit.
Like this is my shopping cart of things that I haven't yet purchased.
Right.
That I have hundreds of those for my whole life in my house.
I really want to go through with this decision. So I like that metaphor. That's a really nice picture for people with emotional authority to be like, hey, you know, this whole thing about sleep on it, ride out the wave. It's like, yeah, that item's in my cart. I may or may not buy it. You know, it's like it's in the shopping cart and it might stay there for some time. And at some point I'm going to clear out my cart. And when the time's there, I'm either going to buy the thing or delete it out of the cart or put it back or whatever. And I think that's a really nice little model for people who've got emotional authority to work with that and make decisions. So that's nice. I like that. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. Well, I am totally losing my voice.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to sleep well tonight.
I hope I sleep well because not really sleep.
Is there anything else that you want to share? Maybe would you like to talk a little about your incarnation cross? We haven't touched on that yet.
Sure.
Right angle cross of planning, and of course gates. I mean that contains the channel 3740.
Right, my conscious, that's the 0.4, and then the 9 and the 16, the unconscious 6 line.
Right, the 9 and the 16 on the unconscious. The 16 is the gate of skill. I have that one. I
know.
You do. And that's where you bridge your husband, is it?
That's I honestly think that we were fated. You know, he has the right incarnation cross of Contagon. You know, and they read about that, and he talks about how
what's he got?
My husband's got the right incarnation cross of the 30 gate of fates, the 3041, and I don't remember what the other side is, but his incarnation cross, Contagon, like contagious. But Ra explains it as like they're the people. They're not here to do anything besides just be the fate, just be this energy that people are drawn to take them somewhere. So like. So, like, he uses this as the analogy is what Ross says in that incarnation cross book.
Is this your husband's or your incarnation cross?
I'm talking about my husband because we talked about the 16 and I just bounced off to my husband. But I have to tell the story because it's a really good story. It's a really good story.
Tell us about your incarnation cross.
Yeah, but I was talking about both of our crosses. I feel like.
Okay, let's do one at a time. Then
fine.
I'm losing track a little.
Okay, let's go to mine. Let's go to mine. Okay. Focus says right there.
Okay, go ahead. What you got?
Okay. I think we talked so much about how I feel about my 3740 that we can just maybe move on to the 9-6 because I feel like that 3740 was my first half of my life. I think that it just kind of it's just kind of there, and it's just kind of I know it's my conscience, but I feel like it just unconsciously plays itself out. It's just is who I am. There's nothing that no work ever.
Deal.
Huh?
It's the tribal deal that binds family together.
Right. So this is this thing that I never had, and I created my own.
I
created my own in my family and in every person that is a friend of mine. I am that alpha person when it comes to the tribe. I mean, everybody just feels magnetically drawn to me all the time. The pressure is always on me to find the answer. They just all are just look to me like lost puppies. But
you want to know the keynotes for the lines on this? You probably know them, but you've got 37-4
right.
is Sun Gate, and that's leadership by example. And then gate 40 is organization. And it's the design of a part seeking the whole overall.
Yeah, that was me. The part was my third line, seeking the whole, and I've got a whole lot of that now.
Okay. And how about okay, so you're gonna say something about the 9 and the 16 on the 6th line.
Yeah. Now I forgot. I was about to talk about it, but now
Raluca's got this one for us queued up, I believe. Have we got that one there, Raluca? Let's see if Raluca's doing all this magic behind the scenes to.
I wish I could send you. I should send you guys. I have the big book, the like 1,400 page book, and it really explains every incarnation cross with the line, and it's 4 different books of each quarter, and it's a really good book.
Cool.
So I can send you if you want. I should say this to everybody. Everybody's like, send me the book.
Yeah,
okay.
I know she posted a few screenshots, so that's cool.
Yeah, people.
Let me see if I can find it here.
What are we looking for?
We're looking for your incarnation cross.
It's right here.
Oh, is it showing there? Is it?
Yeah, the right angle cross of planning.
Okay, I got this new computer, so it's I'm still figuring out the how it all works. Oh, there it is. Cool. I was there all along. So we've got the right angle cross of planning with gate 37 as a sun gate. Jen, would you like to read it out to us?
You made it to read that?
Okay. Yeah. Because sometimes people can't see it. The writing might be.
The energy in your cross is to create deals and bargains as part of a forming community. The structure of communities and institutions are made up of these bargains or compromises. For example, we pay local taxes so that we can have public schools and transportation. Among other community benefits, your energy strives to contribute to the creation, fortification, or continuance of community in whatever shape and form that takes.
Nice. Very nice.
So, no, I mean, I feel lately, oh my God, somebody's trying to call me.
I mean, especially with it being a 4th line, it's like you're the deal broker, aren't you?
The deal breaker?
Broker. You're brokering the deals.
Oh, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I'm always something. It's always, everybody's like, comes to me on, like, I don't know.
That's a strong tribal connection, that 3740 through to the spleen on the 44th, 26th there. So,
but I do say I feel more, lately I've really felt connection to my unconscious son, my 9. That I'm just, I guess, I never really, there's a lot of things about me that I didn't realize were just special to who I am. Like a lot of things, like that whole thing of hearing other people, like there's things I would say, I've said my whole life, like I'll try to explain something like, when you feel or when this happens like this, and people would just be like, but they didn't know what I was talking about. Well, like just being in this human design community, I'll say things like that and people are like, no, that's because that doesn't happen to everybody. And you're like, oh, okay. Yeah. So like that 9 gate, I realized that is like, that's like the epitome of my unconscious. Like I just, everything just flows out of me by attacking all those small little details is how I, there's always such big, huge life things happening from the moment I came into this world, so I found comfort into breaking it down into small things, into, instead of it being such a huge thing that like in getting, eaten up by it. if I
You
were
know
able
the
to.
joke about,
Uh,
you know the joke about eating the elephant? It's not a very vegan joke, but the joke is, how do you eat an elephant? And the answer is one piece at a time.
yeah.
I mean, because human design's a damn big elephant. So, and the other thing that's super cool is, like, you know what you're saying about when you start out, you think, of course, well, everybody has this talent that I have, or this skill that I have, but actually, no, not everyone does. And that's the beautiful thing about having this map, which has our unique individual capacities and capabilities. You know, I mean, there's 3,000 people in that Facebook group where we met, and no two people have the same chart.
Yeah, and I think, you know, there's a lot of times, like in work, like I would always get put into manager positions when I was younger, but then I'd always lose them too, because I assumed everybody should work like me and see things the way I see things and break things down, you know, and they weren't, you know, and that was the thing, is being able to connect with people like that was not correct, you know, but that's how I was conditioned by my family. It's like, shut up or do this, or, you know, that's not what I would say. You know what I'm saying? Like, just to thrust who you are, and who you are is who everybody else must be. You know, that's like my mother. Like, you know, you can tell her something about your life or that you're going through, and she'll come and she'll tell you another story about her life. Like, everything comes back to me. Like, but it's not the same. It's not the same, because all of life, yes, we all go through the same themes. Life is as a theme is the same, but that's, you know, just like the collective, that's what they're doing. They're reevaluating the same themes over and over, but bringing it back in a different way so that people who didn't see that before.
It's such an interesting thing, because you've also got leadership by example, you know, as your sun gate. So that's super interesting. You know, you've got that leading by example, but then at the same time being about the other, and you know, those you know, those skills of leadership. It's, yeah, super interesting. Well, I need to wrap up pretty soon.
Yeah, sorry, my mother-in-law was asking me, what are they eating for lunch?
So yeah, it's been pretty interesting talking with you, and I definitely found there's like probably 3 different moments of like, oh, okay, I feel like I get you a bit more. And that's the beautiful thing for me, to be able to talk to so many different people. And, you know, I guess the question for me is, I don't resonate with this thing of saying, you know, what's the self and what's the not self. For me, I'm just curious about, like, who is this person?
Well, I honestly think that's oversaid and misunderstood, even by people who have been doing this for a long time. Because if you really, you know, I think you can interpret anything the way you want. You know, I mean, how many versions of the Bible are there, right? And such an old version, and whatever. So, you know, but if you can read into things that Raw say, and he says things all the time, like, why does he always say this or that, yin or yang, this and this, right? Because why are these things here? You know, people go, you know, oh, I don't listen to transits because that's not myself. So I'm like, okay, well, just because you don't pay attention to them, then that doesn't mean that they're still not there. They're still there. So, you know, just some things that people just, I think that working the program, how it works for you and however you need to tell yourself things. But I mean, I think that there's some people who just are more conditioned that they have to tell themselves that, because if they allow themselves to think that having any of that not self come out of them, then they're not strong enough to be able to not allow it all to just crash back down on them or something. I think that's the fear. I think they're just fearful of breaking whatever it is they built up. But I don't.
What do you have, like, a way of just being able to, like, stop? Like, do you have a way to just, like, you know, just stop,
like, turn off my energy?
No, not turn off your energy, but just,
I don't know what you mean, just stop.
Well, be it like doing, talking, cooking, cleaning, organizing, planning, leading.
When the sun goes down and everybody goes to sleep and there's no energy touching mine. When all the world has gone to bed.
Space in your own aura.
I have to be like, literally the entire world has to sleep.
Uh-huh.
The entire world within my time zone, but you know, I've always been a woman of the night. I've always been.
We talked about that quiet time when there's less of a signal flying.
I have to be the most clear. I have to be outside, and every night I sit outside. It's even if it's like last night, the wind was blowing so hard, and I'm watching my furniture on my porch swing everywhere. I have on 3 pairs of gloves, 2 sweatshirts. I have on all these layers, and I got a heated blanket, and I'm just sitting there looking at the moon. And that's the only place that I can really be clear is when I am with nature. It's always been that way. We used to have a pond in my backyard when I was a little girl, and my mind is blown up rash. I mean, I was really young. People would probably call the police on her now, but I would just lay in that thing all summer long. I would just lay in it all day, just lay in it. I mean, no sound, no nothing, just lay there. And I loved it. That's how I stopped.
Nice. Well, let's wrap up there. Thank you for being our guest, Jen, and for sharing so many interesting stories about your childhood and your journey so far. And I wish you well with your ongoing, and I'll see you online, hey?
All right, thank you. I had fun.
Cool.
It was better than I thought. I was getting nervous. I was like, oh, I have so many stories to tell. I'm going to tell too many. Right? I do okay.
Well, if there's any that need to come back, I'm sure we can find another space to tell them.
We could do that thing where we have the other 2 projectors, my family, my husband and my son come on.
We can have a party.
Oh my God. It would be hilarious. My husband is hilarious. Bye. Thank you.
Jen. Ciao,
Bye.
ciao.
See ya.